Today is Thursday, July 23rd. This is our community outreach meeting. Before we get into the agenda and to-do list, I'd like to have everyone introduce yourselves. Tim, since you were here first today, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name's Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim online, and I'm here in Deerwood, Minnesota today. And I'm getting a Slack message that comes every Thursday during this meeting. So got to tell them to try me another time. Go ahead. That's it.
Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm joining from Greece. Just looking to see if I can help with the initiatives that we have. I'm joining from Central Greece, where we're having a vacation, and sorry for being too shady. There's no lighting here.
That's great.
I'm in the balcony. Yeah.
I am Jen Lampton, calling from Oakland, California. Yeah, having a rough morning with Pantheon. Sharing for today. All right, so from our last Backdrop outreach meeting, we had several news posts that I think we got most of them out. I know, Greg, you wrote your blog post about the rebuttal to the Lullaby article, which I thought was fantastic. Yep. And then Jack had a blog post about thanking Mike for his time on the project management committee. And I have another blog post drafted. Oh wait, did that go that one live too? Okay, I guess the best practices thing, I scheduled it, I guess. Yay for scheduling, because I didn't publish that manually. Just to talk about how we got our community open source best practices stuff, which is pretty cool. Luke, who is probably watching on the YouTube, is also working on an initiatives blog post just to say we have them, and this is what our first two are probably. And then later on, we're going to have more in-depth post on each of them. So Jeff will probably do one on the telemetry module, and he'll do one on the Ready to Wear initiative. We got an update this morning from Matthias. He said he can't be here for this meeting, but he does have a first draft for a landing page, so that if we specifically wanted to set up ad campaigns targeting Drupal alternatives, this would be a page that would just talk about Backdrop being a viable alternative to Drupal. And it includes some of the comparisons and things that people might like about both, sort of thing. He's got a couple of sites that need to launch the end of this month, so let's say he'll have more time to devote to it next month, which sounds reasonable.
Sorry, I'm not across this. Was that supposed to be a landing page for our main site?
Yeah. So that if we had like an ad on Facebook or Google or something that specifically targeted people who were searching for Drupal alternative, it would take them to a page that was specifically about Backdrop being an alternative to Drupal.
Okay, cool.
Tim, you're muted.
We don't have that ad now. That's no. If we had an ad. No.
Yeah, but we are also pursuing ad grants from Google. So we're hoping that by the time that process gets approved, we'll have a page and we'll be able to put the two together. So we'll see how that goes. Social media, I think I scheduled some tweets 2 weeks ago, but I don't think I scheduled any last week. I think it would be really great to do a couple for each of the recent blog posts. So that was kind of on my to-do list for last week that I forgot to do. But I think that we could still do that at any time just to get more traffic back on posts that happened in the past that people didn't see them. And then I also had scheduled a bunch a while ago about all of the new features that were in Backdrop 1.16. And I had never posted those to Facebook. So my plan was to copy the old tweets and put them on Facebook and maybe see if we can get some new action with the old content. Also exciting.
Well, some good news on there is that along absence of tweeting, I posted a couple of tweets from Backdrop week. So
that's great.
So there was a few things that went out this weekend.
Yay. Thank you.
I'll try to do more again.
So there's a question about this. There's also a question about from Matthias about a case study, obviously. Oh, that's not published. Okay.
Farmer site case study. I don't remember. Do you want?
I remember. Yeah, I remember reviewing that. Matthias needed some help with language. I'm not sure why it's not published. I'll ask Matthias to see what was supposed to left to be done.
If he's happy with it, it can go anytime. Just make sure he's happy with it.
Yep.
And fairly exciting. It took me like 3 weeks to figure out how to grant additional Facebook admins because Facebook changed their interface and I don't use it anymore, so I couldn't figure it out. But I did figure it out, and I granted all of the project management committee members that I could find on Facebook access to it as well, so that in the future, if other people want to manage our Facebook, I don't want to be the only gatekeeper on that. So I gave it to you, Tim. I gave it to Jack. I think I gave it to Olaf. So anyone who wants to help us with Facebook marketing stuff should be allowed to. But since I couldn't figure it out, I didn't want to be the only one in the future who had to know how to do it. Yep. So that's exciting. Newsletter, we still haven't gotten a newsletter out. I think at this point we should start planning for the 117 newsletter to be the first one on the new platform. Let's see, last week, I might even still have a tab open for it. I was gonna look at, man, what was it called? Do you remember, Gregory, the Acquia host email?
Sorry?
Do you remember the Acquia email host emailing platform? What was it called?
Nah.
Mailing list.
I don't. What was that supposed to be for?
So I can't find it. I have a tab somewhere. I'll find it. So we can't use MailChimp anymore. We tried to use MailJet and we had a really terrible experience with them and decided not to use them anymore. So we need a tool we can use to send out a mailing to our subscribers.
Okay,
right now,
so I'm not across that. I know that some other people that were participating in the meeting mentioned a few, but I'm not familiar with those tools.
Mentioned it. It's right on the tip of my brain. Anyway,
I'm trying to find what we're using for the like in the agency I work for. Maybe that was one.
We have a SendGrid account. We could use that.
SendGrid.
Yeah, so one thing that made me really excited about SendGrid is that I know that their deliverability is really good. And after all of the problems we had with MailJet, that was kind of my primary concern. It's like we couldn't even log into the MailJet account because their deliverability was so bad. So if we could go with someone who we know the emails are going to end in not only our subscribers' inboxes, but ours, I think that would be good too. But the other platform was recommended because it's open source and a better alignment with our values. So I was like, it's worth evaluating. Yeah, I think at this point, I don't know, maybe just choose one and get it done. I also haven't looked at the templates in SendGrid, but that would be my other concern, is making sure that it's easy enough for us to just plunk content in where we need it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. If anyone else is interested in doing that, I have a Excel spreadsheet of all of the data we got out of MailChimp, and I can get a similar export of the people who have signed up in MailJet since we switched over that was another thing that was a problem, was the SignUp form. So we had requirements with the SignUp form being able to customize it the way it looks when we drop it into our website. And some of the services didn't allow customization of the SignUp form. And I was really happy with MailJet because they're basically like, here's some HTML, do whatever you want with it. As long as this piece of code's in there, it'll work, which made it really easy. I tried like webform.com because I thought maybe we could just collect email addresses that way. And it was very stylized what the form looked like when you embedded it. So that was an issue too. So just, yeah, we need to do a little research. I'm just gonna write those things down so I don't forget them. Sign up form.
Well, should we create an issue for select a new platform, or we can then?
I think there might be one already.
No, I'm looking in backdropcms.org queue right
Okay.
now, and I'm finding an issue for send regular newsletters. I'm not sure if there's anything specifically about selecting a new platform. I mean, keeping good notes in the. I'm just thinking of a place to make sure we have a history.
Yeah, that'd be great. And then the other thing that we talked about recently is doing an online backdrop event, and we chose the dates September 18th and 19th, which was after DrupalCon and after Bad Camp. And both of those two platforms we're going to use. Oh, I don't remember now because I didn't go to DrupalCon. They both are using the same online event management system, and we wanted to see how that went.
It was called Hop 2, something like that. Hop in.
I think.
Yeah.
I didn't attend DrupalCon, but I talked to Kevin beforehand, Kevin Thal, who does a lot of the video stuff for conferences, and he had a lot of reservations about Hopin. But I saw like general feedback from the Drupal community seemed fairly positive about it. Yep. So I know there were some weirdnesses, but it would be good to have sort of a recap debrief meeting for people who were attending DrupalCon to see if they liked it enough that maybe we should consider it for a backdrop, or if they disliked it enough that we should eliminate it. I know we had some success earlier this year with a Zoom conference, but Zoom is also proprietary software. So it's also like what's in line with our values versus what's going to give us the best experience for attendees. So more discussion probably needed. I don't know if anyone here wants to weigh in on that now.
Well, I can quickly say I sort of participated actively for one day in DrupalCon. The software had some limitations, but on the whole, I thought it worked pretty good. And it had some nice features. I think the big disadvantage, although we did I participated in the CMS Philly CMS or CMS Philly, and it was the same there, which is you couldn't tell, like as a participant, you couldn't see who else was in the session. That's one thing that I personally kind of didn't like. There was some bugginess with people. But I mean, there were 500, 1,000 people using it at a time. So there was some problems with people having to refresh their screen occasionally to keep it up to date. I've heard from 2 or 3 people that participated in DrupalCon, all of whom generally liked it. So nobody really trashed on it that I've talked to.
Okay, that's great.
Looking at alternatives would be fine too, and we do. Is Hopin open source, or is it just a proprietary? It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh well, that is an advantage then.
I think so anyway.
Okay. And again, I imagine it'll be getting better too, and we would have a small event, so you might not have the technological problems that they had with.
All right, so that was all the stuff that we said we would do and did or didn't, and all of the stuff that we had on our agenda to review. So usually what I like to do in this meeting is figure out like what's going on right now in the world and see if there's anything that we need to react to. For example, is there anything we want to write a blog post about or tweet about or include in our next newsletter?
Can I make a suggestion for something we put on the agenda regularly that sort of falls into this area, which is I think we ought to at each one of these meetings check on the dashboard notifications to make sure they're up to date and the news. So we have that dashboard backdrop news block on the dashboard, and I sort of kept that up to date for a little while, but then for the last 2 months I haven't. So there's 3 notifications there, and I would be happy to just keep updating them, but I think it wouldn't hurt to like bring that up every 2 weeks and see if anybody has ideas for what what should be on the dashboard.
Yeah.
Right now, it's weekly office hours on Wednesday. Become an advocate for a new feature in Backdrop, and Backdrop chat switches to Zulip. So all three of these are kind of old things, but they're all still relevant. So,
yeah.
Right. So, for example, today we could say, "What is there something more current that should be in one of those slots?"
So do the blog posts get there? Like if we have a new blog?
We have to put them there.
Right. We create it's a special, its own content type. So we would create a notification that linked to a blog post, but it's not automatic.
Okay.
So I think
maybe then we should put the recent blog posts, at least the ones that we want to sort of like attract attention.
I think we decided that we didn't necessarily want all blog posts to show up there. So it's a matter of choosing which ones. So I agree, I guess. So part of what I'm suggesting is that in 2 weeks we talk about if there's a new blog post that should be on there.
Yeah.
Can we also add the thing that Doc Wilmot mentioned in the agenda? So maybe we should add 2 items. One to discuss the what goes in the dashboard, and then the other thing that Doc Wilmot said with regards to usage
statistics. Yeah, we can do that. I think what I might do is pull up one of our really old weekly meeting agendas, because we used to talk about all of the numbers. There were like 5 things where we checked on like usage, user count, whatever. I would like to pull all of those same things back up so that we're not just looking at like one number and get sort of a more holistic picture of like number of contrib projects or whatever those were. But I do think it would be good to sort of revisit those. Another thing that I would like to do that I think will help too is get the graphing component put back up, because I think like one number by itself doesn't really give us an idea of like, are we growing faster than we were this time last year? And I think if we can see that graph over time in a sparkline format, that would be more beneficial to people who are looking at it, because the numbers are small, but if you see them growing, if you see the growth increasing, then it's a lot more attractive than just a small number.
I think that Jeff was looking into pulling those stats, and I think a result of that is the blocks that we have in the main page, how many comments on GitHub, etc. How many commits. So I'm not sure if that's a special module, like a custom module for B.org. It probably is.
There's a special GitHub API calls to get those numbers in there.
Yeah. I think we already have a documentation, an MD file on how to grab those stats. And this was back in the days when we only had a single meeting, a dev meeting, before we split and at some point it ended up being repetitive. So that's why we moved it out of the meeting.
Let's see. So of the blog posts that we have, not to skip over this item, is there anything you think we should put on the dashboard? So I think like the PMC changes are interesting, but because we did it in like 3 different blog posts, I feel like that's too much noise. So I don't know if
do we have a hard limit on how many links we display on that thing or not?
Well, yes. I mean, we do currently. It could be changed, but it's set up to show 3, and that was kind of the decision we had made for now.
Yeah, I still think like I wouldn't want 3 blog posts about PMC members to show up there, or 3 links, even if there are 3 blog posts. But I was thinking maybe I don't know, finding some way to like add a tag on the website about like, this is a PMC membership issue or something. And then we could put one that was like, check out our new PMC members, that linked to a page that had all 3 blog posts on it. That might be a way to solve that problem, where we can get the information out to people, but not have to like bombard them with stuff they might not be interested in. I also think that the Backdrop is a viable alternative to Drupal 7 is a really strong article, but putting it on the dashboard would be putting it in front of the wrong audience. Like, those people already know about Backdrop. So that was kind of my first thought on that one.
So
I
the
thought about it.
growing our community. Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, I thought about that article too. And I mean, I don't think it would hurt to put it up for a short time. I wouldn't want to leave it there just because it even people that are already using backdrops sort of seeing the arguments so that they can pass them on is a good thing.
Okay, that's a good point.
Like, so I wouldn't, I think it would be okay to put it up there. I just wouldn't want that to sit there for a long time.
Which one of
Go
the blog posts that we mentioned? Which ones? Sorry, which one specifically?
We were
Which one?
just talking about the one you wrote about the future backdrop.
Okay, that's one. But I was thinking also the growing our community, the one that lists all new PMC members together, the one that you wrote, Jen.
Okay.
So it's a single article announcing Andy, yourself, Tim, and Olaf. So maybe we should have something like an equivalent with the stepping down thing or something, or maybe we can edit that to sort of like incorporate the changes. So new members, past members, something like that. Just an idea. And then out of the recent articles, yeah, maybe the one that I wrote, and then the Linux Foundation thing, that's important to be communicated. I guess it's something that we end. So I guess not for a long time, but yeah.
Right. So, I mean, right.
So in terms of priority, I think of those options, I would want the Drupal 7 alternative to Drupal 7 one be highest priority. So maybe we should put that one up now, and then 2 weeks from now we can see if we want to put a like leadership style post up too.
Sure.
Yeah,
let's do that.
I agree.
Okay. So I just added a new tag on backdropcms.org called leadership. But we'll need to go through and tag all of those old blog posts with it. And then we could put the link to, I'm going to throw this link into Gitter, tag/leadership for the dashboard. And then that way, if anyone was interested in that way they would find about core committers, the PMC members, and then other PMC members that step down all in one place. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
I think that'll work. I didn't know we had tag view, but we do. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, it's just not free tagging, but there are tags nonetheless.
I'm sure I've looked at it before. I just forgotten that it was there. So.
No, that's great. Yeah.
Okay.
Regardless of the dashboard block, it's good to have tagging so that people can filter more, see what it's about, I guess.
Yeah, but I agree, Jen. I think that's one way to put a notification up that just sort of links to this page where people can see.
Yep, I agree.
Can see the different posts. Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead and update the notification as we just discussed. And,
great, thank you. All right, and then in terms of statistics, that might also, if we talk about them weekly, if we have something really exciting happen, we'll notice, and then we'll be able to include it in all of our other outreach stuff. We'll be like, backdrop reaches 8,000 whatevers. That could be fun.
Do we want to put a switch somewhere and exclude instances of backdrop being spun on tagboard?
I think
so we already have a bunch of protections in our usage tracking that Drupal doesn't have. So like we don't track Pantheon sites 3 times, we only track them once. Any site has to continually ping every week in order to be counted. So a tugboat site that like fires up and then nobody touches it for 5 weeks isn't going to do the cron thing, and so it's not going to ping again. So it shouldn't be counted.
Okay,
so
that's
we've
good.
already got a bunch of sort of protections in this, so our numbers should be more true to real site behavior than Drupal's numbers.
Okay.
and testing too. All of our testing, when you run like the tests, they also won't reach out. They reach an internal feed instead of the real feed to run their practice pings. We changed that from how Drupal works too.
Yeah, that's good. It helps us. It's more truthful when it comes to the results, and it helps us sort of like get an actual feel rather than disillusion.
Yeah. Okay. Just really quick, I'm going to go back to agendas from 2015. See what it looked like. Community growth is what we called it.
Yes.
So we looked at the number of contrib projects and counted the difference from the week before. We looked at the number of projects with official releases. We looked at the number of contrib authors. We didn't have usage statistics, I think, back then.
No, we didn't. Yeah.
We should put that in here. Is there anything else you think we should look at, like users? Come back to semester.
I was looking at users the other day, and it was like 3,000 some, I don't know, and a half. But yeah, should we be cleaning up the inactive or, spammy looking ones, or?
Well, to me, like, on backdrop.org isn't that interesting because it could mean so many different things. I would be more interested in seeing activity stats, like what's happening now. So I would love to see like how many people have posted in the forum in the last month or the last week, or how many people have contributed to the have posted something. And I don't know how easy those stats are to get. But if we could figure out a way to get those, like if we had a weekly, 24 people participated in the backdrop issue queue in the last week, that would be, because I'd really like to see where that goes up and down.
Well, how many new posts is easy? You look easy. We can grab that from the forum thing, yes. But how many replies? Right. That would be a bit hard.
Right, but the new posts is less useful because in a busy week, you alone can spike that, Gregory.
Okay.
Right. So it's, I would be like, what I'd love to see is how many, not even how many posts, but I'd love to see how many individuals were active, posted something, at least one thing. That would be nice, but I don't know if there's an easy way to do that.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually. Yeah.
To me, that's a real, because like if we see 2 or 3 where nobody's posting anything, then or very few people are participating. Or on the other hand, if we see a spike, right, like what during DrupalCon, do we suddenly get more or less people coming to the issue queue? That would be interesting.
Yeah, do we care about the GitHub queue and how active that is?
I think so. We have one of the counts on our homepage.
Yes, one of the counts is the
includes commit, I think.
I mean, how many people
comments?
How many people logged into Zulip would be interesting. That would be in a given week or month or something, but I don't know how easy that is. I was a little bit surprised. Like I think BW Panda at one point when we were making the decision, like created a list of everybody that had posted in GitHub or no in Gitter in the last year or something, and I like I would have had no idea how to get that information, and he figured out a way to do that.
Yeah. I think he pulled the API that they were exposing.
Yeah.
For how many comments people made. Yeah. Top 10 comments.
He did that for like in a year, if we could, like in any given month, do a similar thing in Zulip and say how many people were active in the last month, that would be.
Yeah, and if it's something that we can automate, then maybe it should be added to that custom module and be posted in the homepage. So yes, GitHub comments and Zulip comments, chat comments, or whatever, and forum. Yeah, if we could pull those stats and put them there, that would be perfect. Luke is asking if there's a YouTube link so that he can look.
There is.
Oh yeah, I can get that. I can get that. I'll do that. Don't worry. I just figured out how.
Jinx. You can't delete it. Huh.
Okay.
Oh, it works. Okay. We are nearing the end of our time this week.
So with regards to that will be useful, just getting the numbers out there. But with regards to the other question that Doc Wilmot was asking, like what can we do to improve those? I don't know how to answer that question.
Well,
my feeling is that this happens organically. Like there's nothing that I at least can do.
I mean, as I replied to him, I believe that we address that issue almost every 2 weeks in this meeting, right? That's why we come here and we're talking about. I mean, in talking about the dashboard, we're talking about how do we reach more people. Every once in a while, and that's this, right? At the beginning of the year, we did sort of the high level look where we try to take a step back and say, overall, what are we doing right and not in terms of outreach? You know, we have to do that every once in a while. So like what I told Doc Wilmot, if somebody thinks they have a better idea of how we should do that, I'm all ears, but I think we are spending time addressing the issue on a frequent basis. So.
Are we doing anything with regards to reaching people that are in the group of, you know, so I remember how I started working with Drupal is that I did a sort of like market research to build my own website. So people that start, I have a couple of cousins that finished IT and just as for pocket money, they just build websites and they usually do static websites. So at some point, something more complicated will come to them and they will start looking at CMSs. Are we trying to reach out people that are sort of like moving out from like to more advanced things, like, or coming out from education or still being taught like in unis or colleges? Would that be a good targeting audience? Like, what do you call it? Get them early. Recruiting.
My gut reaction to that is that we spend a lot of time talking about, you know, who else we could be reaching out to, but you know, we're not. We have some target audiences that we're talking about and trying to do. I don't know that defining new audiences, unless you have some ideas.
This is just sort of like a seed that I planted in the brains of people that want to contribute more in Australia. And since the government is using a Drupal distribution, I sort of like proposed that at least in Victoria, we try to get to Drupal in general being taught in public schools, sort of like to get people familiar with the sites that are being, like the software that is being used to build government sites. So, yeah.
I mean, all I'm going to say is I think every once in a while it makes sense to sort of step back and look at who else we could be reaching, what could we be doing differently. I'm just not sure if that's the priority today, right? It's like,
Yeah. No.
you know. I mean, I was more interested in the question Doc Wilmot asked, which is like, what is enough? And like, what? And I think he got some good answers for different people it manages. And like, I don't know. I for some, this is a really difficult topic, which you've made it very clear, Gregory, that like you're just doing this work because you like it, and you know whether other people adopt it or not isn't a big deal. Some people that are contributors might say, well, it's hard for me to contribute this much if I don't see people, more people using it. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this, but I feel like there maybe ought to be a way for us to talk more about that. And that, like, I would like to this could be a great thing at our backdrop camp, is to have sort of a session just where people can talk about that and share ideas, not with the goal of coming with a right or wrong answer, but just to be able to sort of see how other people view that. And I just think that's a helpful, I think that would help Doc Wilmot, right? Is that I think that's maybe a question he's asking himself. Like, I'm putting all of this effort into it, and we're not seeing the kind of growth I'd like to see. What does that mean? Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a little bit of is there anything else urgent in this meeting? There are a few related issues on backdrops in the issue queue already related to like stats. We do have one that's just to show more stats, to go back further. I'm pretty sure there's another issue somewhere, and I'm looking for it to graph the stats.
Yeah, is that the one that Jeff proposed to use Elasticsearch? Is that the one?
No, it was one that I created about setting up Spark lines using a Drupal charts module. So whatever they're doing on Drupal.org to get the little like tiny lines that show what happens. Yeah.
If we don't have an issue for that, we should. I'm looking for it. Is this it?
I think we do, because I worked on that. I hope we do.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it before, but I'm not. My quick search isn't finding it. But well, I can do that after the call.
Okay.
Search for Spark.
Spark lines.
Spark lines, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it'll be useful to talk about these things every week, even if we don't have a concrete idea of what we're going to do with them, just to have them in our minds, I think is going to help us. But I do think it would be good to, reflect on them too.
Yeah, I've advocated for this myself, but then lost track of this idea. So I agree it's a good idea, but yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this meeting, and then we can regroup in several minutes for the next meeting.
Okay.
Right. See ya.